What was the most surprising or a few of the most surprising things for you to come out of this? We did ask a lot, but was there anything that sort of stood out and you were like, whoa, I didn't expect to see that kind of a result?
One of the questions was, how much of your budget are you spending on marketing? And, look, the CI business is a lot about word of mouth, and there's typically not a ton of marketing stuff that goes on. But I was really surprised that some of those came back the way they did, some of those results and the amount that some of the guys are spending in their marketing efforts every year. So I thought that was encouraging.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. If you know anything about me, you know that A, I host the Independent Thinking Podcast. B, you probably think I like to talk a lot, which isn't entirely incorrect. And C, you probably know that aside from writing and uncovering stories and telling stories, I love data. Weird to think words and numbers don't necessarily always mesh and go with one another, but you think about the data reporter, the data journalists out there, and I like to envision myself or see myself dream job someday of being a data journalist. But I actually get the opportunity to do a lot of that here at Nationwide, and that's through, we have our NMG Independent Retail Confidence Index, plug for that. If our monthly surveys to check on the temperature of independent retailer confidence, and then also there's one-off reports that I get to do, and I recently was able to do that with HTSN and our HTSN Director Hank Alexander. Him and I got together and pulled off an awesome report that we're getting set to release here at PrimeTime. This is dropping. This podcast will drop the week before PrimeTime gets going. So within the next week or so, you'll see the HTSN Member Report, and really, just a deep dive into what it means to be an HTSN member and what HTSN member businesses are like, and the things that they're experiencing, a lot of product trends, a lot of marketing trends, just a whole lot of data to unpack with this report. And it can be overwhelming depending on how you look at it and how you try to digest these numbers yourself. But so many interesting findings that we are so excited to be able to share, when this report launches, and wanted to take the opportunity ahead of the release of the report to dive into it and learn a little bit more about, what Hank got out of the report and some of the surprising things that he saw, and just get his take on everything. And as you'll see throughout the conversation, this is not something that we plan on being a one-off and a one-and-done type of thing. So this is really just the starting point, if you will, of what's going to be ongoing HTSN member surveys and reports and things like that. So a lot to learn, a lot to dive into. So let's just go ahead and get to it. This is Hank Alexander, our director of HTSN, here on the Independent Thinking Podcast, talking about our first ever HTSN member report. All right, we are back on the Independent Thinking Podcast and checking in for second time. I think it's been about 6 months. Last February sounds about right with the last time we connected, but at least in the form of a podcast, because I know between February and August, man, we've been doing a lot of work. Are you sick of me yet, Hank?
No, not at all. These are first of all, the podcasts are a lot of fun to do, and yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on as we go into PrimeTime and Cedia, and so yeah,
we got a lot. Yeah, you hit the nail. Talk about
we talk daily.
just about. Nice to get in front of microphones though and do it in a setting where we can talk about trends and all kinds of. We got a big one today, but before we dive into what the headline's talking about here in this HTSN member report, catch us up. This past, what has the past 6 months been like in the CI space?
Whirlwind. So the business is obviously trending up massively, and we're dealing with inventory, supply chain issues, and I think those are going to continue into 22. In fact, they obviously are going to continue into 22. Business is healthy. 6 months since we caught up. I think the last time we caught up, we talked a little bit about Cedia. We're actually headed to Cedia Expo in a couple weeks, and will be there in a big way. We're taking the nationwide tiny home. It's getting some retrofits done right now. We're upgrading it with some Control4 product and a new Samsung frame, and so we're working on the tiny home, and we're going to have that there and a big group of people. And we're doing a CEDIA reception on the night of the 31st. Had to think about that. So if you're listening to this and you're going to CEDIA, come to the reception on the night of the 31st at the Punch Bowl Social. And so anyway, business is good, and we're busy.
Well, it's funny because, a lot of the same things that we talked about back in February, you can almost hit rewind and repeat on what it's been like, because I mean, things are continuing to go well. What do you attribute, despite the challenges and everything that we continue to see, 18 months into this, well, 19 almost now, pandemic, with the supply chain challenges, do you see, you mentioned you see them kind of continuing into 22, any light at the end of the tunnel, or kind of why has the space been able to still, see the success that it has had despite those challenges?
Yeah. So on our side, custom integrators are very dynamic. They are very nimble and know how to pivot real quick. And so if there's a supply chain issue on brand X, it's easy to pivot to brand Y. And so you've seen a lot of that in the space. Hey, I normally would use this brand of speaker, but I can get this one, and so I'm going to put that sound bar or these speakers in wall or whatever it might be. So I attribute, and that really goes to, again, how nimble the CI business can be. Home building continues, and as you look around, as you go through the nation, every housing market, whether it's new home or existing home, sales are way up. And when somebody buys a new home, they need new entertainment, they need new TV, they want speakers, they want outdoor. Just like in the furniture business, hey, I got a new home, I need a new sofa or a new bed or whatever it might be. And so as that turn continues in the home business, and people buy homes or build homes, that same thing happens in the entertainment business. And so we're very closely tied with that. And that trend looks to continue into 22.
And you mentioned a key word there too, outdoor. And I know that, that has been a major thing in all spaces, really. You talk about furniture, you talk about entertainment, maybe not so much bedding. I don't know if outdoor beds are a thing yet, but maybe someday. But
we'll make it a thing now.
But outdoor, in terms of what the CI space has, experienced, talk about just how important that's been, especially, within these last 6 months.
Yeah, it's you've got guys like Samsung who were never in the outdoor TV business, and they got into it and quickly went to number one market share in outdoor TV. And I think that shows how much growth there still is left in the outdoor business. Everybody's wants a deck or a patio or a sunroom or whatever, and that means outdoor shading. It means outdoor TV, outdoor audio, and it just continues. That trend looks to continue, and it's a big push for us. We've got a relationship, obviously, with Samsung. We've got a relationship with Power Shades, who does outdoor motorized shades. So, I mean, there's all kinds of, that category is blowing up right now.
Yeah,
and I think that there's more to come. I think you're going to see more people get into that, and it's a good thing. It's a space that I think more people should be in.
A fun one to follow for sure. Seeing new products as they come in, and just ways people are kind of upping that outdoor space it really is that extension of the home, and got a lot of emphasis over the past 18 months with more people wanting to be outdoors for reasons, and getting the attention it kind of finally deserves.
Absolutely.
Is awesome.
Agreed. And the best part of outdoor is more speakers, right? It doesn't necessarily mean louder. It just means better coverage. So it's just additional, it's all of those things that just continue to grow. Heating and, misters in certain climates, and you name it. It's a big category, and it's great. Like I said, I'm anxious to see that category grow and continue.
And we'll get a really awesome glimpse of that. You mentioned we'll be in Indianapolis for CEDIA. So first, Obviously we have PrimeTime. If you're listening to this, I believe we'll drop just before PrimeTime. So you're either listening to this while you're on the road to PrimeTime or at PrimeTime. So we'll have all that happening, but then right on the heels of that, no rest for the weary here. We'll be in Indy, and I know, first CEDIA Expo back in almost 2 years. What excites you about this opportunity to get back in front of this channel and at this show?
Yeah, it's so first of all, see everybody. I mean, we will see most everybody at prime time, but obviously, see more vendors and more people in Indy. Honestly, it's the first time nationwide HTSN has shown at the expo.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're going pretty big this time. I mean, we've got, I think our booth is something like 60 by 60,
oh, yeah.
by 60 with a tiny home. And
we've got,
I think it's 60 by 60.
Wow.
And, we've got TCL unveiling a model. I'm not going to get out in front of my skis on this one, but they're gonna do an unveiling of a new TV in our booth, and we've got Samsung product in our booth, and Klipsch, and ATT DirecTV is there. I mean, there's it's going to be a massive show for us, and
don't forget.
I think there's going to be some new. There's new things. Sony's teased a few new things. I think you're going to see some really cool things from those guys.
And don't forget to pick up a few copies of the show daily while you're there too, right?
Yeah, the show daily. Yeah, we're in the show daily. Featuring a couple of our members in some show dailies, and look, it's going to be great to be back there. And yeah, first one in a couple of years, and it's been a while since. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a while since we've been in Indy. So it's nice to be back in Indianapolis. It's a fun town, and their downtown area is great. So it should prove to be a really good time. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. And, shameless plug, I get to do it 2 weeks in a row, but we've got the innovation stage, and over here hosting a podcast. I get to host CEDIA's first ever innovation stage, or at least be a part of hosting that. So a lot of cool things happening at that show. I know
it's a great show, and it's good to see it grow. And CEDIA has done a really good job of bringing in some new vendors, and you're going to start to see the integration. I think you're going to start to see more of that integration with the kitchen and bath show and CEDIA, and you're seeing that on some of the show floor diagrams, some of the new vendors that are popping up there. And so there's some really cool things going on. It's great, and we've got a great spot. We're right on the show floor. We're just down from I think we're just down from Yamaha and Hisense and Samsung. We're right kind of in that same area. So it's a good space, and looking forward to seeing everybody.
Be a fun time. And like I said, before we get there, though, we got to get through PrimeTime and everything that's happening there, and some really exciting news. And let's kind of turn now to what we're here to talk about, and that's this HTSN Member Report. A first-time venture for the group and for HTSN, and a lot of exciting things to come out of it. But before we dive into the actual, meat of the report and some of what, we want to tease and talk about here, talk about just the desire to do this. It's like we said, the first time we've been able to survey HTSN members like this, and really dive deep into a whole range of topics to learn more about them, their businesses, their expectations and things like that. Where did the desire come from to do this, and sort of what's the benefit of being able to collect this kind of information and data on the membership?
Yeah, so we'll rewind the clock a little bit. First of all, kudos to you, because you worked your butt off on this thing. I mean, this really kind of was a collaboration of both of ours. And really kind of, I think, where the idea came from, you and I were actually talking about, we do monthly surveys of our members about business and what their trends are and those kinds of things. And we decided to kind of take that a step further and do a larger, broader survey of the HTSN, the CI members. And first of all, thank you to the guys that did this. I think there was over 25% of the HTSN members that took part of this. So thank you. And those who didn't, we're going to do this again, so make sure you do it next time. But it was really to get more information about a broad range of things, not just how's business, what are the trends, marketing, all of those types of things. And it's interesting to see, and it was great to do it and have something in depth and be able to have some of this information. And then it kind of gives us another step towards the next one, some of the same questions, and then ask some different ones that maybe came out of some of the findings in this survey. So it's always good. You can never have enough data points, and it's always good to have this kind of stuff. So
definitely. And you talk about some of the topics that we were able to survey on. I mean, this thing dove into it all. We've got the just some business basics around, types of projects and how many projects, cost of projects, into all kinds of different facets too. You get into how they're generating business and how they network throughout this space, and product question. It covered a whole myriad of topics and categories of things, which was really cool to see. And I as much as I like to write, numbers really get me going, and getting things on spreadsheets and diving into data and tracking trends and stuff like that. So to be able to take this kind of snapshot of a good chunk, you say 25%, but in terms of surveying, that's a really sizable chunk of a membership to participate in this, and gives you a really good understanding of kind of the health of the space and where it's going, and
gives us a good basis point to track trends.
Yeah.
One of the questions we asked, I don't want to give away too much here, but one of the questions we asked was about how they're acquiring product. And so this gives us a good basis point to track trends, direct versus distribution, and how, especially with supply chain that we talked about earlier, like how does that shift? What was it like during the survey? And then what's it like next time, and then time after that, and so how do those trends kind of come out? So I think that those are important. So it's you're right. There's just a ton of, and I love spreadsheets and numbers and all of this stuff, right? So it's just it's
and
like I could sit and I'll sit and read this like for hours, and my wife will be like, "What are you reading now?" Oh, the same report. Yeah. Okay.
Just so many, I feel like every time you go back to it, you can kind of pick something new out of it, which is awesome.
Yep.
And we'll share, below the episode here, whether you're listening to it, on a podcasting platform or watching on YouTube, we'll have the links below in the description for how you can, right now, as we're talking, it's just signing up to receive it. The report itself will drop during prime time. So we'll have information as well on, we'll be sure to update the descriptions here for you to download the report, and get access to it that way. And look forward to sharing it. But, again, without giving away too much, so many areas we can dive into this. I want to start by asking you, was there anything what was the most surprising or a few of the most surprising things for you to come out of this? I know we did ask a lot, so to have expectations about what you were expecting to see, difficult to ask, but was there anything that sort of stood out and you were like, whoa, I didn't expect to see that kind of a result?
A couple of things there. I think number one, one of the questions was, how much of your budget are you spending on marketing and advertising? And I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of suspected that number was lower than it came out in the survey. Just, look, the CI business is a lot about word of mouth, and there's typically not a ton of marketing stuff that goes on. Although, we've got 2 digital platforms and relationships with Google, and we do all the social media and all of those kinds of things. So, I'd like to think that the CI guys are in some of that. Some of them aren't, but I was really surprised that some of those came back the way they did, some of those results, and the amount that some of the guys are spending in their marketing efforts every year. So I thought that was encouraging.
To your point, before you jump further ahead, to your point about how much they are spending, it was cool to see too. With this report, we were able to pull in some other outside data too, related to small businesses and in the CI space. And I mean, they tracked right along with, what a typical marketing budget for a small business looks like. I mean, I think the average is roughly, you see between 6 and 10%, or, roughly in that like 7 to 8 range for what a small business spends on marketing. And I mean, they fell, there were some a little bit lower, some a little bit, a few that were way higher, which was really cool to see. But a bulk of the membership was right in that range. So
in there.
It's
Yeah.
surprising, sure, to see them spend that much because this is
Yeah.
a different space than normal small businesses, but cool to see that they are right in line with, where they're supposed to be, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it means that they're, again, I thought that number was going to be lower, and it
Yeah.
means that they really are spending time working on the business, not just in the business. And so like I said, that one for me was a good thing to see. It was surprising, and it was good to see that. I think the other thing was, for me personally, was how they're generating new business, and how that ties back into the design build community and some of those kinds of things. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting statistic. And I go ahead.
No, you mentioned it. That you talked about it just a second ago, that word of mouth and how important that is. I mean, diving that question in particular, we talked about sort of asking them what it was one of those select audit apply, right? So they could tell you how they were doing it and ways they generate new business. But that word of mouth, I think, what was it, like 8 out of 10, 80% of members were saying that is the biggest driver of new business for them, which
of new business.
Not surprising, as you mentioned.
Not surprising, and that's the CI business, right? That's a lot of how they're getting them, and they're new customers, and then, like I said, how that also leans forward into the design build community, and I think that's another place where the relationship we have with CEDIA and the CEDIA continuing education, or the kind of the train the trainer, CEDIA calls it COI, and how much that is a real opportunity for the CI business, our members, to really lean in and start to lean into that design build community even more, and get referrals that way, as opposed to word of mouth, or just a customer referral, or waiting for that client to maybe make the introduction with the builder or designer. It gives them an opportunity to turn the table and them to make that introduction, and they're involved in that project more sooner and more often.
I want to lean back into your career history and experience as an installer. When you see these numbers and kind of relate it to the experiences that you had in the business, does it track? Like, does it make sense? Did you see sort of, where was marketing spend a big consideration for you, or was it really just word of mouth?
Yeah, it was when I started in my career. It started out just word of mouth, but we started to really lean in more on marketing. And at the time, it wasn't internet marketing; it was print and other ways of getting your name out there and marketing. And so we started to really spend more and more of our budget on those types of activities, and also spend more and more of our budget on marketing to architects and builders and all of those types of things. So it's interesting because it hasn't changed, I don't think, that much, right? I mean,
right.
It's like wow, it really hasn't. The same things.
Is that, I mean, it kind of, in the connotation of it hasn't changed, seems negative, but at the same time, like, knowing what this space is, and when I think word of mouth, it's not just like one customer. I mean, at its core, it is a customer talking to another potential customer and saying, "Hey, this is my guy. You should go to him." But like, it's with the CI space and technology integration and what smart homes are today, and what these spaces are. I mean, it's having, I think the client having a party, in theory, or like having people come to their home and experience the home theater that they had installed, like that's what the word of mouth and CI is. So that's never going to change. You get someone to come over, and watch a movie with you in this, massive Dolby Atmos home theater that you have installed. That's going to pique someone's interest in, where did you get this? How can I meet this guy and get this myself? So like, it hasn't changed, but I don't think it's bad that it hasn't changed either.
I don't either. I don't mean it hasn't changed in to your point, in a negative way. you're exactly right that, the power of pushing a button and the lights dim and the projector comes on and the amazing sound from the theater or whatever it might be, that's the kind of thing that the customer, that the friends go, I think that's cool, I want that. And that's the kind of thing that you're exactly right. That won't change. I think we need to evolve a little bit with some other ways of marketing. And I think that that's some things that came out in the survey as well.
Yeah, which was, to that point exactly. I think one of the things that surprised me was seeing just how many, integrators, HTSN members reported that they were utilizing social media marketing. I mean,
Yep.
it was a good percentage. It wasn't, I don't think it reached half, but it was, right around 20-30% said they were using social media marketing, on top of, online advertising and things like that. So, I mean, that doesn't even account for the people that the amount that were using that. So cool to see that they are, they still
Yep.
rely heavily on the word of mouth and things like that, but they are turning to those other platforms.
Turning to it. Yep.
And at
If I
least
was an integrator today, I would be posting every job that I do to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and
would you be on TikTok?
Snapchat. I don't even know how to use Snapchat, whatever it is, right? TikTok. I would be like, and during those phases, like, hey, started a cool new project today, and it may just be this really rough, unfinished basement. It may just be a hole in the ground where they're starting to dig for a house, right? I would be documenting and putting those things on social media like 24/7, because that's a great way to get, and you never know who's following that, right? Your next client may be following that process of that job that you're doing, and that becomes your next customer.
No, that's awesome. Just different ways of thinking. I mean, that's
Yep.
just how it hasn't changed. And that's still, that could in theory
Good.
be like a client sharing their project that you're documenting of their house, of their project, of whatever it is that you're working on. That in turn becomes social media, but also social media word of mouth and things
Yep.
going viral. So cool to see, members report that they are going that route. What's sort of, not that there's an end goal with this, but how can this report be used? What are your plans to kind of take this report? Is it something that is actionable? What are sort of the next steps with it?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of stuff that's actionable. I mean, I think everything in here there's an action item, and I've got a list of stuff on my board in the office that action items from this, and I think that getting dealers more engaged in some of the marketing activities, those that maybe weren't following it, talk about more jobs, find new, like what are the new trends, the design build community, engaging with them more, and again, it kind of creates that baseline of, oh, we know how people, we know how they did last year. We know that they're projecting their business way up again this year. What does that look like for 22 and 23? And then how do we, take those trends and calculate where the business is going, and what are the new technologies that guys are looking at, lighting or shades or whatever it might be. Pro AV, the resimercial business is a big portion of it. So there's all kinds of things that come out of this. And this is by no means is this a one and done. And the next iteration of this, you'll see things that came out of this and start to track that baseline and go deeper into other things.
Might be another way of asking and getting that same answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's most exciting for you about having completed this and then looking ahead?
Yeah, I think the trends that the guys, that the members are looking at, again, the resimercial business is trending up. I think seeing that, we asked a question about voice control. I think that there's some other questions that are going to be coming down the road on that side of things. I don't want to sneak too much out on that, but I think that there's some other things that we're gonna dive into in the next version of that. around that kind of control in the home.
Just a lot. Yeah.
A lot of it. Yeah. I think, as I look at every question, I'm like, oh, the next question is this, right? And that's the trick. And thank God you were involved in this, because if I was doing this survey, this would have been like 100 questions, and you kept reeling me in while we were going through setting the survey up. You kept having to reel me in. No. Not that many questions, Hank. Not that many. Okay. Next time. Okay.
We'll get there. We will get there. I think we were, man, I don't want to put a solid number on it, but I think it got roughly 30-ish, right?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
You get to a point where it can be overwhelming for you as the person diving through it, and you get so many data points and things like that, which, in 30 questions, you can slice this up into 19 million data points. So
yeah, you don't want it to be too, you don't want the person taking the survey to like check out. Like, they do have a business to run, and they have jobs to get onto, and those kinds of things. And that, I think, so yeah, like I said, you kept reeling me in on that. You're like, no. Next time. Okay.
That's what I'm here for. I'm happy to help how I can. And no, but this was a lot of fun to do. And you mentioned it, this is not a one and done. I look forward to kind of seeing how this grows, and even just, what we're able to take out of this first survey and act on or follow up with additional reporting and case studies and things like that. Cause there were some really interesting findings that I'm excited for people to see as they dive into this. And then, we've had eyes on it for a few weeks ourselves. So, not that we're looking at it through fuzzy glasses or anything, but we'll be able to see some feedback from others that dive into it. And,
I shared it the other day with some people on our digital team. And so you're going to see some cool new digital things come out of Nationwide and HTSN for the custom integrator. And it's funny because some of those folks weren't even aware that we'd done this survey, and I was like referring to it, and they were like, you gotta share this with us. And so I sent it to them, and they were like, oh my gosh, now we see where you're coming from and why we're doing these things. And so just even internally, it's just, there's a ton of stuff that's actionable and that we're already working towards, and awesome. Some exciting stuff. Some of it will be at CEDIA, some of it will be at PrimeTime. Some of it may be at the HTSN Summit in Dallas in November. Nice little plug there. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Well done. I say you're getting good at this podcasting thing.
Yeah. Just run a banner across the bottom with all my plugs. I'm just kidding.
Links in the bio. Links in the descriptions below. No, but like you said, that's new to me to hear that, other teams are now getting a hold and being able to see what we learned and apply to some new things coming. So that's exciting. And that's, at the end of the day, it's all about learning how our members are, how their businesses are, where their challenges are, where they're seeing success, and then leaning into it. And that's the kind of stuff you can find out through a report and survey like this.
It's good for us. And it's also good for the members. Like, oh, how do I gauge against the rest of the membership? Like, am I, I answered this question this way, and the rest of the membership, there was a preponderance of it over there. I maybe want to shift, or maybe I'm doing something right, or I'm doing something, so there's all kinds of, ways of looking at this, not just for us, but for the members, and learning about, I had never even thought about spending that much in marketing, or I'm overspending, or I'm underspending, or, whatever it might be. So I think that there's it's good information for everybody all the way around to have. And you're right, you said it earlier, there's the way ours trended was very similar to the way some other surveys, whether that's, business councils or CE Pro or some of those kinds of things. It was interesting to see that the HTSN members trended in a lot of those same ways.
Yeah. So just so much to unpack with this. And we've done a lot of our own unpacking, but we're excited to package it all back up and distribute it out to the world, to the members and others to see, and looking forward to hearing all that feedback. So we could talk for 4 more hours, I think, on all the findings from this report. Maybe we will someday. But no, Hank, I appreciate you taking the time to dive into it, and look forward to finally launching it here in the next few days, few weeks, and seeing, getting around to eventually creating a second version for you.
Thanks again for your help in doing this, and like I said, kudos to you for getting this thing off and diving through all the data points and doing this. And, again, thanks to the guys that participated. And next time, I'd love to see that, over 25% be over 50% and continue to grow it. So anyway, thanks for the time, and see you in a few days.
Yeah, see you soon,
Nashville.
Should be fun.
See you.
You ready to hit the road?
I am. Yeah, I am. Yeah, it's good to be back out and hitting the road and seeing people and see the members and their stores and be out there helping them out. So yeah. It's good to be back out on the road.
Cool. Well, we'll be seeing you soon. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the time.
All right, and thanks again to Hank for taking the time and diving into the report and putting up with me. Like he said, reeling him in for the survey as we were building it, and had a lot of fun diving into the findings. I mean, we talked about it a lot. There are so many ways and opportunities of how to slice this data up and dive into it and pull things out and learn about so many different facets of the custom integration business and how our members are operating in this space, and just a lot. So we look forward to the follow-up and eventually getting to another iteration of this report. So thanks to Hank, like I said, for putting up with me and coming in and doing this podcast. And as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we will catch you next time.